Welcome back to the Daily Mastermind. George Wright III here with your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and education. I've been on the road traveling, so we have not had our podcasts drop about the same time every day, but hopefully you're still getting some great content. I want to really do what I can to inspire you this week. And one of the concepts I want to talk to you about today is how to get away from perfectionism and realize that good enough is better than perfect. And this concept is one that I've got a couple of stories to kind of share with you, but I've seen this over my career many times because I'm kind of a perfectionist myself. A lot of times we spend too much time trying to get things perfect, and it's much more productive in order to get it going along the way. So some people kind of waste their whole lives trying to avoid making mistakes, but they cripple their careers since, perfection isn't really attainable, and ultimately, they make fewer mistakes but accomplish less because they waste so much time trying to make sure that things get perfect. So time is money in business. You've got to realize that doing a good job today is way more important than doing a great job tomorrow. And an example of this, an example I wanted to kind of give you is this rock star John Bon Jovi. So many of you know who Bon Jovi is. John Bon Jovi's career could have ended before it started if he didn't understand this principle of, good enough. Because when he was about 21, he won a contest on the radio to record his first song in 1983. And he quickly formed a band and released a debut album that went gold the following year. And suddenly there was just tons of concerts and things, going on. And he opened for ZZ Top at Madison Square Garden. They rushed a second record, second album, and tried to get out there real quick. But they got kind of poor reviews in 85. And John Bon Jovi was unhappy with the album and wanted to do it better, but timing was so critical, so he really just had to get it released. And even though he wasn't happy with the album because he didn't think, one particular song was good enough to be on it, fortunately, he listened to the people who knew what they were talking about. That song was actually You Give Love a Bad Name, which became one of the band's most well-known singles and literally helped send them to number one. And this is the song that he didn't believe was even good enough. And ironically, it launched them into superstardom, and they went on to sell, oh my gosh, they sold like 100 million records, I think it was. And, had they waited until that second album was perfect, they probably would have lost basically this momentum that they had. And there's another example of that, which is actually kind of the opposite, and it's what happened to a rock legend, Tom Scholz. Now, he's kind of referred to as the smartest man in the history of rock and roll. He holds like a master's degree in mechanical engineering from MIT. He's an inventor, has like 34 patents. And in 1976, the debut album by his band Boston sold 16 million copies. It's still, I think, the biggest selling debut album in history, but it's considered to be one of the best produced albums in history. And Scholz played every instrument on the song and produced the album himself. He's just totally brilliant and talented. But he's also a consummate perfectionist who took 8 years to finish the third album they did. And that's, when CBS and Epic Records kind of got tired of waiting for him, and they sued him for breach of contract and dropped him from the label. This was Boston, the group Boston. So, obviously it's okay to have high standards as long as they're realistic, but it's not okay to procrastinate until everything is exactly the way you want it to be, because your employer, your business, your partners, they don't have time to wait around until things get perfect. Deadlines have to be kept and payroll has to be made. So this principle I've talked about in the past, it's a real key to success, is say yes and then figure it out. And it's progress to perfection, not perfection to make progress, right? So you just got to remember that highly valued employees don't necessarily make fewer mistakes than the average employees. In fact, they often make more mistakes because the number of mistakes increases the productivity along the way. You just have to know the right way to manage mistakes, because making mistakes is okay as long as you manage it the right way. So I wanted to give you a few keys to successfully making mistakes, and this might be a way you can look at it and say, I'm going to hedge my risk against this perfectionist, tendency that I have, because a lot of us are very much perfectionists. So let's talk about what you can do if you make a mistake, because the key here is that you've got to be able to manage your mistakes. So first of all, you've got to you've got to understand that it's reasonable to be able to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. But then you have to catch your mistakes. It's very important that you catch your mistakes and that you correct your own mistakes. What you don't want to do is have other people, identify your mistakes and then you don't fix them, right? So it's important that you catch your own mistakes and you fix your own mistakes, and that you also accept responsibility. Accepting responsibility is one of the key things that you need to do, because you can't blame other people. It's so much better for you to accept responsibility and just move on and move forward. Then people know that if you make a mistake, it's going to get taken care of. And it's also important that you don't make excuses. Don't make excuses for your mistakes. Just fix them and then move on. Another thing to keep in mind is don't hide your mistakes from your boss, your clients, your customers, or people. Don't hide your mistakes. Just be open, quick, move on, rectify it, and move forward. And then obviously some of the most important things is learn from your mistakes, because if you make a mistake and you don't learn from it, you're going to continue to make that mistake over and over and over. And also, don't repeat the same mistakes. And the best way to do that is to learn and identify from your mistakes. So many people they want to so quickly forget their mistakes. And as long as you apologize when it's appropriate and you learn from your mistakes and you don't repeat them, then you're going to find that these mistakes are the things that are going to help catapult you. It's like Robert Kiyosaki talks about, fail 5 times faster. The key, it's an interesting way for you to look at, but sometimes the key is to find ways to fail faster, because failure does lead to success. And I think that's a key principle that you can learn in your life. And so I hope this is something that'll help you. The real point I wanted to make here is that good enough is better than perfect. Good enough is better than perfect, because perfection sometimes keeps you from creating that success and movement and momentum that you need. Anyway, that's my message for today. I hope you have an amazing day. And do me a favor, if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe on the podcast, and make sure you share it. Share it with at least one person. If you've gotten some value today, help us to be able to share the message, get the community growing. And it'd mean the world to me, and I hope that it'll help you to also teach these principles to others. It'll help you to internalize it a little bit yourself. That's the Daily Mastermind for today. Have a great day, and we'll talk with you tomorrow.